und
He will be today, yeah.
Yes, it's right.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Yeah, it's okay, help you.
Your Gemara or a Gemara?
The Gemara that I was using. So, rephrase it.
Check the guys in there and mix it.
Yes, it's right.
You right, Ben? How many miles today?
Yes, it's okay.
56.
Your Gemara or a
I
Gemara?
was doing it last week this morning.
You're holding people up. Check the guys in there and waiting for people.
No. But I went so early.
YouTube.
That's how they go.
Half six.
Why do you know?
That's for whom?
Ben, can you close down
Half
with
eight.
YouTube?
I went out short. 10 past 9.
I think it's YouTube.
Yeah, you're being recorded.
I went so early.
If you want to learn about the science of love or the gentle power of highest sensitive people, the silent child, Oscar-winning short film. Who? No, I'm just telling you what they're offering me. YouTube.
You better be careful because sometimes that put rubbish on.
I know. I've actually, but he showed me a way to get rid of some of them.
Put YouTube safe mode on, but then
Can you?
your stuff won't come up because they might deem it
Propaganda.
anything that doesn't satisfy the left will automatically ban you guys.
We have a couple of very short dafim, and then we have a couple of very long dafim. Only show how we split.
3 days to
There we go.
What do you mean? The barbecue is very important.
I don't understand.
Barbecue in 9 days.
Milky barbecue.
A what?
Milky
I
barbecue.
don't know milky barbecue. That's like,
Salmon.
oh, come on. Your barbecue.
Right.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Give me the rubbish. Take that.
We're up to Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, the second line from the top. We're in the middle of a machlekas. Zayin Amud Aleph, second line from the top. We're in the middle of machlekas of Sheishes and of Nachman, with the Tumah Hutu B'Tzibu. Oh, or the Chuya B'Tzibu. The nafkamina being what? What's the nafkamina? If the Tzibur Tomei, and we have an option to find somebody toy, do we try and look for somebody toy? That's an nafkamina. The question, the way it came into it is that the Kohen Gadol would keep away from his wife, but we did not expect him to keep away from all other Kohanim, even though there's a possibility that somebody visiting him will drop down dead. So the Gemara's got two mahalchim how to answer this question. Why are we not chayshish that somebody visiting him will die? What's the two answers the Gemara gives? Unlikely and Tumah B'Tzibu. Let's get it clear. Unlikely, that is, even though it's likely that his wife will go nida, it's unlikely that somebody will die. And the other answer the Gemara gives is Tumah B'Tzibu. We asked yesterday, it's very important you saw this, so the 12 points about. What's going on? If Tumah B'Tzibu, so why keep away from his wife? The answer is only by mace, not Tumah Zov, all Tumas that Gemara uses in Noshim Psachim that come from a person, we don't say Tumah B'Tzibu. So now we've got Machlokes and Nachman of Sheishes. Do we say to Tumah B'Tzibu or Tchul B'Tzibu? Comes along with Sheishes and says, I'm going to prove my position. Sheishes' position is that Tumah is only the Chuya B'Tzibu. That means the Chuya, the way Rashi uses, because she hitiru so. With difficulty they permitted it. Really, we would prefer they should avoid Tumah. So the Koishi, you want the cook. The Koishi hitiru so. It says the Gemara. Omar Rav Sheishes b'Noamin, how do I know this? The Tanya. If a person was standing and bringing the Minchas, which day of the year was he bringing the Minchas?
Second day of Pesach.
Very good. The Pesach, the 16th of Nisan. He's bringing them in the Chasim, but it becomes Tomei. He tells everybody, we bring another Korban Oima, because it was all Tomei. If this is the only Oima that exists, we say to him, have a pikeach, be wise, ushtoik, and keep quiet. If this is the only Oima which is available, we say to him, do yourself a favor, do us a favor, be sensible and keep quiet. So the teacher they used to tell us, even a fish would never get caught if it would learn to keep its mouth shut. And that is sometimes a person needs to have a certain wisdom and say nothing. So we say to him, keep quiet. Why tell us that it's Tommy? What's it going to help everybody? What's the point of telling everybody that it is Tommy? End of the day, we're not got any solutions. Well, they keep quiet. That is what the Gemara says over here. Katani Mias, the Maisa, we hold it to we said, says the Gemara, Katani Mias, we see, Oima, Umebin, Loi, Acher, Stachter, we bring another one. So you see over here that Lechatchila, we try and get a hold of Torah. Even though we say that's a tzibur, and normally we say tomorrow tchoya with tzibur, hutu with tzibur. Here we see that lechatchila we try and get Torah. If we can't, then we use the Tommy. But we see clearly that if we can, we use what? We use the Torah, not the Tommy. Pass the drink and cups. You go. Oh, so it's a kasha. Says the Gemara, Omar of Nachman Modina hechadik shivayim laachila. When it's shivayim laachila, I am moita. Meaning, the minchas oimam, how much of it would go on the mizbeach? Does anybody know? How much would go on the mizbeach? Levi, if we gave you the avodas hakabodos, how much would go on the mizbeach for minchas oimam? I was looking at it, very lot. Kemitza, very good. A kemitza, a fistful. The rest of it, the kind would eat. Who was very, very surprised about this? Come on. Who was very surprised about it?
Me.
Haman of Osher. He said to Mordechai Tzaddik, he was trying to hang him with second day Pesach because on the 13th he wrote the letters, 3 days of fasting. On the 16th of Nisan, came to hang Mordechai Tzaddik. What was Mordechai Tzaddik learning? Because it's second day Pesach. He said, your tiny fistful of oima barley flour outweighed my 10,000 kikar of silver because the Maisa I've come to take you on the ride on Shusha. Maral says very deep in everything says deep in Yomi what he saw in that fistful. He was very, very surprised, very, very surprised. Since we're Oima, I say very briefly, Maral says, he says the Oima is made out of barley. Pesach is bread, wheat. Barley is who eats barley? Animals. Wheat is humans. So he says like this, when we came out of Mitzrayim, we were very, very lowly. We were like animals. That's the loss of coming late.
You know that also this side.
They can sit there, it's fine.
Sit yourself.
Why? Well, I'm not that dangerous. The Beis, just a very, very brief Maral says that what happened was that the oima is it's animal food, bread is wheat food. It says that Kaiso came out to sound like animals. They hadn't yet learned Torah. When they came to Mount Har Sinai, they were learning Torah. They were big. They were like great people. So Haman said, "I would have understood if I would have lost my battle against Klal Yisrael on Shavuos, because on Shavuos you got the Torah. But on the first day of the oima, you're like nothing. You're just like animals because then they haven't got anywhere near far away from the Torah." And the answer that Mordechai Tzaddik said to him is, but we've already started counting towards Shavuos, meaning we're already preparing ourselves to get Torah. When a person says, well, takes one step towards Kabbalah Torah, even if he hasn't actually reached Kabbalah Torah, the Maisa is already worthy of being saved. Okay, that's okay. Maisa like this. Of the Oima, only a fistful went on this Mizbeach, the rest of it was eaten back again. Now, this is something we learned again and again in Pesachim, but wasn't the easy period, and that is that even though we say tumah hutra but simple, it's only that which goes on the mizbeach. Anything which Kohanim eat, we never say tumah hutra but simple. There's one exception to that. Does anybody know? Very good. Oh, Korban Pesach is the only korban that we eat it betumah. Do you remember why? Korban Pesach, the ikabitz is to eat it. Okay, very good. So therefore, like this says the Gemara, you have Sheshas wants to bring a raya that what? That tumah dechuya b'tzibur. What's the value tumah dechuya b'tzibur? Because if it's hutzah b'tzibur, why don't we just bring the korban when it's tumah? Why do we look for something to it? It says on Nachman you've got the raya, because the korban omer, the vast majority of it was eaten, and by that which is eaten, we never say tumah hutzah b'tzibur. We only say we're not allowed to eat it at all. The Rishonim actually has slightly different nuances. What's the problem? The problem is that if we take the kemitza, what will happen is they kind of might make a mistake and they'll come to eat it. Especially if you're not listening, they certainly will come to eat it. If what happens is, if we put the kemitza on his back when it's tummy, the rest of it will get eaten. And that's mamish a chiyuv misa. It's a chiyuv misa if they eat it, the kind. You have to remember this. So therefore, imagine Mashiach comes just before the second day Pesach and we'll tummy, we'll do a kemitza of the omer put on his back, but they can't dare to eat it. Says on that is why we don't want it to be tummy. Again, Go back to Nachman Sheshes towards Chuya Betzibur. Shittas of Nachman is what? Hutra. Shittas of Sheshes is the Chuya. So she's got proof. By the Oima, we look as best as we can to make it toy. So Nachman got the proof. Because they were talking about korban which is mostly eaten. And that which is eaten, we never say Tumah Hutra Betzibur, you're not allowed to eat it. Oh, yes. So that's the question is, really the main kapara is that which you put in his back. The rest of the comment, it doesn't matter. So that's the machlokes of here. Why does he care the fact it's eaten? Some say we're chishish that the kohen will forget and will come to eat it. That's why we don't want it. And others say, since the majority of the korban is supposed to be eaten, the fact that it will be thrown away and not eaten doesn't make us happy. Slightly different nusach as to what exactly the problem is when we're going to be eaten. Is it because we're scared of being eaten too much, is it a misa? Or is it because it will be thrown away and we don't want it to be thrown away? Okay. So let's do the words of the Gemara again. That we don't say tomorrow with simple. Basic. A person brings a mincha for cows, rams, and sheep. If you remember, we learned in Shkolim, what's the halacha, for example, by a male cow and a female cow? Is the same mincha or a different mincha? A female ram and a male ram, you are different. Very good. Goat, a female goat and a male goat, same. Oh, you remember this? That's what I read the Pesukah actually. Of course. But Nitvis Beyoda became Tommy. Oima, he announces it to Rabbi Nachel Stachtel, bring another mincha. If that's the only mincha, you have a bikach. As we said, person sometimes the wise thing to do is to keep quiet. Ma'ila, what we're talking about, poem Elim Kvasim Dechag. We're talking about the cows, the rams, and the sheep of Sukkot, which is the korban symbol. And the halacha is that it's according to you of Nachman. What's the halacha? Is Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. So why lechatchila do we look for toy? You hold Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. Says the Gemara. Omar Lochav Nachman look. I mean, like this. What we're going to learn is that Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, generally speaking, but there are certain exceptions which Rav Nachman agrees to, and he says, Poim Elim and Kvosim, each one's referring to another exception when we don't say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. Can you tell me any exceptions when we don't say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur? We had just now one. Korban which people eat. A korban which people eat, we don't say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. Let's see more inside. That even though we say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, it's only by a korban which is a fixed time. Here we're talking about a korban which does not have a fixed time. It's a par. If Kaisar by mistake did that with the Zohar, then they bring a cow to the Beis Hamikdash. Since it's not a fixed time, we don't say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. What do? We push it off. And if we bring it B'tumah, it's Tumah Tchuya B'tzibur, not Hutra B'tzibur. Eilim, Be'elo Shel Aaron, we're talking about an Aaron on the Kohen Gadol, if you by mistake doesn't have veil. The Avgav, the Kvil is man, Kiv de Yochitu, Madunon Kvosim. Madunon, sorry, we look for a Torah. Kvosim, Bekevas Avoy Moima, Dike Shivayim La'achila, where the Shivayim is for eating. So in these three words, Poem, Elim, and Kvosim, we actually have the three times when we don't say Tumah Hutra. We pass the Ma'aser Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, by the way. Except for these cases. When is the three cases? If it's a par tzibur, but it's not fixed time. If it's a yochid and a fixed time, then we say Techuya B'tzibur, because even though it's a fixed time, but the fact is we prefer to have it b'tar, or when it's got to do with it when you're going to eat it. Meisvei. Dam shenitmol blood that was kim tomei v'zokoi b'shogig hutza b'mezid lo hutza. We actually had this more very briefly. The more water machlokas is b'shogig mezid referring to the sprinkling, or the shogig mezid how it became tomei. But either way, it says that that it's not heta, because if we say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, then what do we claim in the mezid? Says the Gemara, Kitanya Hida Yochid, we'll talk about an individual, not a tzibur. I'm just going to mute. Toshba, what's the tzitz over? We're going to have a sugi now about the vitzriyat tzitz. There's a special halacha that when the Kohen Gadol has a tzitz, and what happens is it's mevatzeh, it appeases for korbanos which are brought a bit incorrectly. So it says like this: Adam, the blood, baraboso, barachila. Boso is what the Kohanim eat. Chila is which goes on the mizbeach. Shenitmo, ben b'shegi, ben b'mezid, ben b'oines, ben b'rotzim. At the shegi mezid is the rotzim. Ben b'yochid, ben b'tzibur. If you say to what b'tzibur, don't really know How can you? Why isn't it Miratza? If you say Tumah Hutu B'Tzibur, you don't need a Mitzvah Tzitz because the halacha is Tumah Hutu B'Tzibur. We're talking about the Yochid. So even though the words of the Beis is that Tumah, that Tzitz is Miratza, Bein B'Yochid, Bein B'Tzibur, the Mitzvah Tzitz is only going on the Yochid, not on the Tzibur. We'll talk about those which are not a fixed time. Again, well, there's two kinds of answers. Either we talk about the Yochid, which is a fixed time, or a Tzibur, which is either a Yochid at a fixed time or a Tzibur not a fixed time. If you think about it like this, if it's a Tzibur with a fixed time, as for example a Korban on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, it's Tumah Hutu B'Tzibur. A Yochid, which is not a fixed time, for example, a person needs to bring his own private chatos, everybody agrees. No, it's not even the Chuy, you're not allowed to bring it with Tumah. If you've got a Tzibur, which is not a fixed time, or a Yochid, which is a fixed time, according to Rav Sheshas, it is Tumah. So then everybody agrees, even though Nachman agrees, that Tumah the Chuy B'Tzibur, and you can't bring it, you should look as much as you can to pick it with Tower. Basic, another Beis. Aaron should carry the burden of the Abir of the Kodshim, meaning that he should appease them by carrying the burden, therefore the Abir is not on the Korban. Which Abir does he carry? It says in this week's parasha, Lo Yerotze, this week's parasha, beginning of Parashat Kedoshim, that if a person brings Pigul, Lo Yerotze, it shall not be appeasing. And if we're talking about the Abir of leaving over, what's Noisa? What is Noisa? You left it past the time it's supposed to be to. What's Pigul?
The wrong intention.
So you had kavanah to eat at the wrong time, even though the mice you ate at the right time. Which one's more chamo? Pigul. Pigul is chorus, no, says not chorus, it's only allowed. Says more top of Zainam with base. I tried to go through the stasis to add the vice to the stasis all in Kodshim, very complicated. So not going to do them. It's Mefush that the vice uses the words Tumah. Hutu b'tzibur, v'kasher of sheishas, kasher of sheishas, what of sheishas say to what chuya b'tzibur, the Beis says hutu b'tzibur, and it's not Tanoi, the Tanya. Tzitz, ben sheyesh ne'am mitzcha, ben shena mitzcha, mevatzah divrei Rabbi Shimon. Shimon holds, whether the Kohen Gadol is wearing the tzitz, or whether he's not wearing the tzitz is mevatzah. It has the ability to appease whether he's wearing it or whether he's not wearing it. Rabbi Yehuda, me'odeu al mitzcha, while it's on his forehead, mevatzah. When it's not in his forehead, so Machlokas Tanoim is the tzitz mevatzah when it's not in his forehead. So Shimon says, I'll prove it to you. How will I prove it to you? Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur. The Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur wear the tzitz? The Kohen Gadol wear the tzitz on Yom Kippur? Half the day, yes, and 2 out of 5 times. Why? Because he would change from golden clothes to linen clothes, back and forth. This week's Parashat Achlevis. Rashi tells us. Actually, I think it's 3 out of 5 times. He starts off in gold and finish in gold. It's 3 out of 5 times he's wearing the tzitz, and 2 of the 5 times he's wearing the white clothes. So therefore, some of the time is mevatzah, some are not. Now we do know that at any stage of the day, whatever happens, if something becomes tamei, it's okay. I mean, if on Yom Kippur, for example, one of the korbanos becomes tamei, dead sheretz falls lit, it's okay. Now the says of Shimon, I've got a proof that you don't need the tzitz to be wearing the tzitz to be mevatzah. Any other day of the year, we could say it's okay. You could say we're talking about whether Kohen Gadol happened to be wearing the tzitz. But in Yom Kippur, it's impossible for him to wear it all day. There's no way he can wear it all day because some of the time he has to be wearing the white clothes. So therefore, and we know that it's mevatzah. Says of Shimon, I have absolute proof that the tzitz is mevatzah, whether you're wearing it, whether you're not wearing it, is a raya that the tzitz is mevatzah. Says the Gemara. It's not on his forehead mevatzah. You should leave Yom Kippur avodah. We don't need the tzitz on Yom Kippur because it's a korban tzibur and it's a kavua azman on odd. Yeah. Of course, it's kavua azman. So therefore, since it's hutu b'tzibur, we don't need the mitzvah of the tzitz. The fact that Shimon himself though used it as a proof. What's the right? What's the Shimon hold? Because he had to use the fact that it's only the evidence to the koach of the tzitz that it's okay. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's Tumah Hutu B'Tzibur. Michal, the Shimon Sova Tumah T'chuya B'Tzibur. So you go Machlokas Tanoim with the Tumah Hutu B'Tzibur, T'chuya B'Tzibur. And if you can't ask the kasha from Rav Sheshas or Rav Nachman from any brayso, Because any advice that you bring, they just say it's machlikas tanoim when they hold like one particular time. So now the Gemara leaves the topic of tumah with civil tchum. So we'll go very, very quickly back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says the Kohen Gadol has to avoid the tumah of his wife at all costs. Therefore, he has to separate for a week. But regarding tumah smeis, the Mishnah says he does not need to be so careful. We have two reasons why not. What are the two reasons? So now we're finished with the topic of tumah with civil, and now we're going off to the point of tzitz. So we've got machlikas tanoim. Does the Kohen Gadol, let's say Kohen Gadol, come up to Kohen Gadol rushing and saying to him, "Oh, I didn't realize the blood became tummy. I was sprinkling the blood became tummy." So we've got machlikas tanoim. Do we need to verify if the Kohen Gadol is wearing the tzitz? Shittas Rabbi Yehuda Shimon is that makes no difference whether he's wearing the tzitz or not. It's meratza. Shittas Rabbi Yehuda is only if he's wearing the tzitz, then it's meratza. Omar Abai.
When would it not be meratza? Man, not with that whole fact that he doesn't actually wearing it. Meaning that the Goyim don't have it in the Beis Midrash?
Oh, means like this. When would sister? More asks it a second, but who told you that it's never that it's maybe it's always meratza? Maybe tumah is not meratza, only b'mezid where Chazal didn't like the fact that you went ahead on purpose. No, because the tzitz is always the tzitz is always meratza. Means without the tzitz, all kabbalas for sure tumah would have to be thrown out. Who told you that go? It's not. You're right. Oh, shit is
captured by the goy.
If it's captured by the goy. I thought you were talking about korban of a goy. It's a tzitz meratza, the korban of a goy. That's what I'm showing you.
When it's a tzitz meratza.
Oh, so that's what it says. Oh, bad. But this bad tzitz, if the tzitz is broken or lost, the kulam only pliga de meratza. Of course, it's not meratza. He pliga de tali b'sichsa is hanging on a peg. That means it's not broken, it's not lost. It's just hanging on a peg. He's not wearing it. Yehuda Steinberg meitzach v'noso. There's two psukim regarding it's one pasuk, but there's two ways to read it. Let's read the pasuk like this. It shall be on the forehead of Aaron, and then Aaron will take the burden of the kodesh. Which seems to say that what? That only when he's wearing it, when it's on the forehead of Aaron, then and then the pasuk says, it should always be on his forehead. So we've got the beginning of the pasuk says he should wear it to appease the korban. The end of the pasuk says it should be always on his forehead to bring matzah. So you've got a contradiction in the pasuk. Rabbi Yehuda is bedak one half of Shimon the other half, and we're going to be spending the rest of the day working out how does each man Da'oma explain the other half of the pasuk according to the other man Da'oma. So again, Rabbi Yehuda Sava made Safar Nasa only when it's on his forehead. Rabbi Shimon Sava Tomid Lotsin Ifnei Hashem. My Tomid. What does it mean always? That it always has to be on his forehead. Is it possible for Kohen Gadol to wear the tzitz always? Does he not need to go to the bathroom? And does he not need to go to sleep? And when he's going to sleep and goes to the bathroom, he's not going to be wearing the tzitz. So therefore, it's impossible for him to wear it all the time. So what does the pasuk mean? Always. And a tomid marat. So the tomid is always the tzitz is always marat. So you've got two.
Maybe anyway, point of Shimon.
Yeah.
If that's going to sleep and take it, how does he know that it wasn't?
From the lashon of the pasuk, what's supposed to be when the pasuk says tomid levatim? Always. What does it mean always? Always what? Always on his forehead. It can't always be on his forehead.
Coming always when he's wearing it.
Well, then why always? Then you've got the first half of the pasuk. Boy, you are made sachar which on the forehead. So now the Gemara is going to explain the man Da'oma. Each man Da'oma wants to do with their half of the pasuk. Again, but one half of the pasuk says he's got his forehead is merat. So another pasuk the whole time. Rabbi Yehuda, it says always, he's not allowed to ever stop thinking about the tzitz. First has to touch his tefillin every b'chol all the time. From the tzitz. It's only got the name of Hashem once. We mustn't switch off it. Tefillin sheish ben askor is how big that have many askors. Alachas kamo, how much more so that the person has to be careful never to switch off the tefillin. I want to say time like this. The Tisha Shonim asks that there's a Gemara that tells us that a person is not allowed to sleep while he's wearing tefillin. Does anybody know why not? Shemir Fiachvan, you might let off. Fake the Tisha Shonim, I don't understand. How could he sleep anyway? How can you sleep? When you're sleeping, by definition, you're not thinking about the tefillin. What? Again, the Gemara says don't sleep because you might let off. Regardless of that chashash that you might let off. Let's say a person knows it won't happen. Let's say we don't have that problem. But there's another problem. How can you go to sleep? We just said from this Gemara that you have to think about the tefillin every second. If you have to think about the tefillin every second, you obviously can't go to sleep. So why do you have to come up with a new reason? Shliach fiach, go ahead. Taper clay, it's enough the reason they don't have to think about them. The Shagas Ayah brings the Tisashon. The Tisashon actually says that when you're sleeping, it's not a problem. It's only when you're awake that you've got a chiyuv. Because when you're sleeping, it's impossible. When you're awake, you have a chiyuv. Shagas Ayah brings a slightly different question from a Rosh and Bracha. So the Rosh and Bracha says, does that mean that somebody who's wearing tefillin can't learn Torah and can't daven because he has to be thinking about the tefillin all the time? So what the Shagas Ayah brings, he makes it to Machlekes Rishonim, and he says there are different levels of switching off. And he brings from the Shittas Rosh that the emes you don't have to be thinking about your tefillin altogether. Nothing. That's the proof is that you can go to sleep, you can learn, you can daven. What the Gemara means that you have to be thinking about your tefillin means you mustn't do something which is the opposite, showing disregard for the tefillin. For example, kalos roish. The person starts making jokes and being mockery, so that's the opposite of thinking about the tefillin. But when a person's thinking nothing, that's okay. That's okay. That is one shittah. Shagasai then says the other shittah, if you look at the Mechab himself is a shy about it, that no, that the emes tak, you're supposed to be thinking about the tefillin all the time. And when you're learning and you're davening, it is possible to think about two things at the same time, like a person to be able awareness, the back of his mind, that he's wearing his tefillin, and at the same time to learn and daven. Or the kasha over here about leifiach behem, taka, you have to come up with another answer, as the Gemara could have said both answers. The Gemara just chose one. The Gemara could have said also shliach ta'atri. And it comes up a big nafka between this machlokas is when you're wearing tefillin, are you supposed to be making sure every moment to think about the fact you're wearing tefillin? Or it's that it's to have an awareness you're wearing tefillin all the time? Or is it that you have to have, the main thing is that you don't do anything the opposite of wearing tefillin? That's to behave in a certain laughter and mockery, but to actually be constantly aware you're wearing tefillin, not mechuyah. Shakazai makes that to machlokas showing it often comes into the mitzvah dosha. The ma'isa nowadays we don't wear tefillin all day. And one of the main reasons is because we struggle with this mitzvah of making sure not to switch off. I mentioned once before very briefly, the Kedushas Levi in Parshas Boy, end of Parshas Boy, what does he say? He says Akshroch wears tefillin all day, because Akshroch doesn't have the struggle of switching off. And what's written in Hashem's tefillin? So Chas V'Shalom, if a person says Lashon Hara about a Yid, while Hashem's wearing his tefillin and thinking about his tefillin, a person's telling Hashem that his tefillin are no good. And upsetment more than that. So again, let's go back to the machlokes. So machlokes are vidam b'shimon when a person, a kohen gadol, who's not wearing his tefillin if he's mevatza or not. They're both dashing the same pasuk. One dashes the first half, one dashes the second half. The first half of the pasuk says, "V'yo ameitzach Aaron v'nos Aaron," that when it's on the foot of Aaron, then Aaron will carry the burden. And the second half of the pasuk says, "Tomit." According to Rabbi Shimon, what does the word Tomit teach us? What's according to Rabbi Shimon? What does the word Tomit teach us?
Always. It can't be always because you're not wearing always.
It's Tomid Mevatza. Tomid means it's Tomid Mevatza. Even if he's not wearing, it's always a pieces. According to Rabbi Yehuda, what does the word Tomid teach us? He must be Mesiach Das. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, Tomid Mevatza, Boksivan Mitzcho, even also the pasuk starts off the beginning saying he should be on his forehead, and then it's Mevatza, which is mashba only when it's on his forehead. Answers so that's to tell him where to put it. The pasuk is not trying to teach you that it's only mevatza when it's on his forehead. The pasuk is telling us, where should it be put? On the forehead of Aaron. But no son of the Sakochim, and will take the burden of the Kochim, and then the pasuk finishes off. Tomit, that's always a piece. Says the Rabbi Yehuda, how does Rabbi Yehuda know? We'll get to a new topic then. How do we know where to put it? How does he know it? Answers Gemara, nafkele mal mitzchoy. He learns it from nafkele mal mitzchoy al mitzchoy. Al mitzchoy, the actual word al mitzchoy on his forehead to teach us that it is. No. And the pasuk says twice. V'hoyo al mitzach Aaron. It should be on the forehead of Aaron. And then the pasuk says v'hoyo al mitzchoy. So twice it says on his forehead. One to tell us that where it should be, and one to tell us that only while until his forehead it's mechaper, but not the rest of the time. Says Rabbi Shimon Nami typically Bar Mitzvah. So Shimon himself, he should be satisfied with those Bar Mitzvah. It's not enough Nami, you're right. So what does it do with the first half? If it's not suitable to go on the forehead, so the fact that it says on his forehead twice, one is to tell us where it should go, and the other one to tell us that only when it's suitable to go on the forehead, it's mevatza. When it's not suitable to go on the forehead, it's not mevatza. In what case is it not suitable to go on the forehead? When it's broken, and something's gone wrong with it. So therefore, that's the two psukim. Rabbi Yehuda nishba atzitz minore. How does he know? Now, the extra vov, metzach could have said metzach, said mitzchoy, the extra vov. But Shimon metzach mitzchoy mashmalei, he doesn't. He's not medayik. We're going to stop here. I just want to go through the pasuk now very carefully. You heard that according to Shimon. So first we go to Shittus of Shimon. If you've got the pasuk in front of you, it's very good. It should be on the forehead of Aaron. That teaches us what? What does that teach us? According to Shimon.
When it's on the
No, Shimon says it's always mevatza.
always.
Again,
So mention where you put it.
where you put it, very good. Where you should put it. But no, Aaron will take the bread and kochim always. Like the pasuk finishes off, Tomit tells us that it's always. What do we learn from the second phrase, No, that's the word Tomit. We learn that it's always mechafer. No, with Klam Mokim, you said already from the first half. No, again. Aaron tells us where to put it. That's the Kvalu Mokim. The second time it says Vayan Mitzcha is to teach us can't be broken. Only something which is suitable to go on his forehead is mevatza. But if it's not suitable to go on his forehead, it's not mevatza. And then Tomid is to tell us that what? Even when he's not wearing it. So there's three droshes. The first part of the pasuk is to tell us where he should put it. The second Mitzach is to tell us only when it's royal to go on his forehead. If it's broken, it's no good. Tomid is Tomid mevatza. Now let's go according to Rabbi Yehuda. The first Vayan Mitzach Aaron tells us what? Only when he's wearing it. Only when he's wearing it, it's mevatza. When he's not wearing it, it's not mevatza. The second Vayan Mitzcha tells us two things. One, it tells us what? Where it should be. Mitzach, it should be on his forehead. He has put on his forehead. The second drasha for the fact that it says Mitzcha with a vav, and he could have said it without a vav. What do we learn? That if it's that if it's broken, it's no good. Mitzach Mitzcha, if it's broken, it's no good. What does he do with the word Tomit?
He has to think about it.
He has to be thinking about it all the time. Very good. So that is the end of this topic of Mitzach Mitzchoy. Actually, we're going to go back now to discuss more. Where do we go to? Nema. Nema Hadi Tanoi, about 59. Right. Good evening, good evening, Yehuda. Nice to see you back, Yehuda. You've been missing.
Yeah, I was away a couple of days last week, so back in action.
And that's not with everything. Okay. Shker, how are you?
Sure, sorry, I couldn't make it. It was a bit late. So I thought it was quick as
I can see you directly like this. We got close now than the end of the room. So it's not. Okay, call to me.